I'm a man on a mission. I'm a man on a mission. Man on a mission. I'm a man on a mission.
Here we are again. We did it.
Yeah, we're here. Can you believe it?
It's amazing.
It's awesome.
Nate Lewis, man, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. This is exciting, man. Thank you guys for having me.
We've already raved about you. We told the audience, I mean, we talked about so many heavy subjects already as it pertains to like the subject matter of what you fight against every single day. But let's give the audience just a quick, like 1, 2, 3 rundown of like your story, where you started, you know, kind of like
pre-Operation Underground Railroad.
Yes.
So we're going to dive
that
deep into this season of your life.
Yeah.
But give us, I mean, it would take 100 dinner conversations, but give us,
yeah.
You're a dude that's done major Hollywood productions. You lived by yourself in the middle of Alaska. Give us some tapestry of your background before your work today.
Well, I grew up, I was a writer, man. I wrote poetry as a kid. I know it probably doesn't sound like too manly. I didn't know this. But awesome. Then I started in music and wrote music, and I loved storytelling, and I was so moved by so many of these true stories, these movies that impacted me or opened my, I guess, just my concept of different life pieces and aspects. And so, I don't know, something just happened, and I just decided I was going to go to film school. I went to film school, moved to LA. I had a little bit of luck, and I did a lot of hard work. And
that's out of Coeur d'Alene. You started here in
I started Washington. Yeah, I grew up in Washington. Went to school in Washington. Headed to LA. Right after 2000, the millennium just crushed, and then I was like, all right, let's go. Yeah. The world's going to end in 2000.
I remember that. Y2K.
You know, and then I went down there and just. Yeah, like I said, I had a little bit of luck, little breaks, and then just started traveling the world. I spent about 16 years around the world on location and working on some of the biggest movies in the world and meeting some of the most amazing people. I had my first real life experience in 2004 in the Sahara Desert on the border of Malaysia, where I saw firsthand like what real poverty is. And I've lived all over. Like I've seen people in Vietnam and Thailand that are poor, but in the Sahara where you don't have water and rain and vegetation to feed animals or any kind of, I mean, it's hard. It's like living on the moon, man. It's the only time I've ever felt real quiet when we were in the middle of these sand dunes and I hadn't seen an airplane in 3.5 months, and there's no flies, there's no bugs, there's no plants, there's no wind blowing leaves. And it was just like
hard to survive.
Yeah, it was pretty hard. It's pretty hard, but those people were so happy. And I think that was like the initial like plant in my head, like, man, it changed my life so much that I wanted to help change people's lives someday. I didn't know when. I started my own nonprofit.
That was the seed.
Yeah, it really was. And I knew that, I had a moment where my life was, look at all these things that I don't have.
Yeah. And
it switched to look at all these things that I have, in that moment. And it just gave me a different perspective and look on life. And I knew that kids, the organization I want to start was to help fight like suicide and teenage suicide. And these kids who, life can be tough, right? Like it really can be. But when you have life just stripped away from you and you see the rawness and you can still find happiness with very little.
What a gift.
It was a eye-opening experience. And then went to my Alaska thing, which is 20 years later, where I was kind of surviving off of the land in a sense for over 100 days and being alone, which, you guys know that story and certain things. But then that also made me realize just how little I needed, because then I had accumulated a lot by then, 20 years later.
This is after you'd produced many Hollywood films and
some. Yeah. But I'd been a part of, I don't even know, 50 feature films.
Yeah. Very active in the world.
Can you just name a few? Just give some context.
Started with Sahara, was back in the day, the Italian Job. I worked on Planet of the Apes. War for the Planet of the Apes was one of my favorites just because of the technology and stuff.
Yeah.
Did a TV series called Person of Interest for a couple of years. Yeah, in New York. I don't know. I can't even remember.
No, it's good.
There's so many.
So right at the top, bottom line. Yeah, he's working with the best.
Dive into the Alaska thing. I know we heard that story, but what?
So I obtained the rights to a book, a true story about the Alaska Scouts during World War II when the Japanese invaded Alaska and occupied it for over a year. But anyways, it's called Kastner's Cutthroats. You can check it out. But Colonel Kastner enlisted a bunch of like wilderness wise men who were able to live off the land and survive because our army wasn't equipped to do it. But just didn't have the clothes and stuff. They were dying, and more even though it was the Battle of Attu is what ended it, and it was the second bloodiest war in the Pacific in World War II. we lost more men to the weather than we did to that battle.
Wow.
So there's a lot of cool things in there about survival and just like the culture of Native Alaskans, like Native American.
right.
And it's just fascinating and what the culture was back in the 40s, you know, and
So you're
it's
trying to
not a
relive
war
that?
movie. Yeah, I did.
Trying to relive
yeah.
that.
Well, I felt like if I'm writing from perspective of these guys, and I had all their journals and letters and stuff, but in order for me to have the firsthand perspective of what it was like, and I could never know what that was like to be in war, but I had to go be alone. And I had to
In the middle
not
of Alaska.
shave. Yeah. And I had, day 3 or 4, I had like an encounter with a bear. Like,
Did you
close
document
up.
this?
Yeah, I
Okay,
did.
so you did.
So I have I'm not going to get into all that. I'm not here to promote that, but I had a blog, but I videoed all the
Cool.
stuff and did the behind
Amazing.
the scenes of all this. And, it was definitely life changing. Let's just
Yeah.
say
So what was the moment in off in the wilderness by yourself in one of the harshest conditions on planet Earth? So like, where's that pivotal moment when you're breaking? You're literally breaking, because I imagine you must have.
The first one was that day probably around 20 something where I ran out of thoughts.
You ran out of thoughts.
I ran out of thoughts, because you just sit and think,
awesome. Yeah.
and you're just like, you think about this and think about that. And then I just, wow, there's thoughts. I've already thought every thought, it seemed like.
Yeah.
But then it was probably like day in the 80s and it started raining. It rained for 17 days straight, but I went into a
Jesus.
really difficult place for me mentally. And I had a little breakdown, but I knew I could make it to day 100. I thought I'd make it way past 100 easy. But those the last like 19 days were really tough for me mentally and
Emotionally.
emotionally for sure, dude. I was alone. That's hard. Humans are made to interact with people, and being alone, it was fighting that feeling day after day, and you're struggling too. It's hard, I think I mentioned to you guys like the pain in your stomach, and I'm not talking about hunger. Like there's people who dealt with way more hunger than I did, but I mean I was eating nuts and stuff to just as Advil to kill off the pain in my stomach from hunger. But I was alone, man, and I knew in that moment this was pivotal for me in my life. It's just why I am where I am today.
Yeah. Wow.
My priority leading up to that point was my career, right? And
Everything.
success. And
All
all
in,
that.
yep.
No, all in. I was single, didn't have kids.
Just killing it.
Reaching 40 years old. Man, I was like living the life. I really, truly was living the life, which is coincidentally today we were already talking like, I feel I'm at the peak of my life now. And it was because I knew at that moment, I don't ever want to be alone again.
Yeah.
And what happened inside of my brain, which I subconsciously, I didn't even know this was going to happen, was that my priority shifted to being open to closing down a career that I'd spent 2 decades building, because my next career was going to be a dad and a husband.
Marriage, husband.
Pursuing a higher
That is beautiful.
100%.
higher.
And then, oh man, I get chills thinking about it. But then it happened like not long after I met my now wife. And this was just another crazy, cool story. But now I'm here, and I knew like we tried to do the long distance thing. Like I would go on location for months at a time, and I saw how that worked in the past. It didn't. It never worked. And I knew that this was now important to me. Yeah. And
Real connection.
and I wanted to come
Real
home
commitment.
from work and see my wife and eventually see kids and be a dad. And
It's interesting how the commitment you made to, I mean, first of all, we talked about going all in and what drawing a line and going all in really looks like. I mean, let's just jump for that split second to his career. He's in this moment because he's trying to produce a good result. And so what does he do? He goes and lives and breathes the thing he's trying to create. Like, so that's just a level number 1 of commitment that's rare. But beyond that, it's funny that commitment is what got you to commit to your wife.
It's like you pursue.
You don't
one
know till you like bleed out. Like that's
you
my
have-
definition of
oh,
bleeding.
man.
Like
You have to pursue a star,
North Star.
summit the peak, and then it gives you the privilege to see the real star.
It's
You know
cool.
what
It's
I'm saying?
powerful. But
Like-
how many people
like-
never do that? They never do that thing that gets them in touch with like the shit that really matters, because like we know the journey he's on and we see this pivotal moment in his life. But imagine yourself cutting yourself off from society for 100 days in the middle of the Alaskan wilderness, like
just
with
a
no
con.
people, no connection. Go do that. Try to do that. That's
I can't imagine.
pretty amazing,
I've
bro.
done like 1 month meditation retreats, but there's other people around.
Yeah,
It's
you
only
have
a month.
human interaction.
I can't. It's just conceptual.
Yeah.
What you must.
It's almost like
I
a
didn't.
mushroom
It wasn't
experience.
100% alone, like solid 100
Yeah,
days,
yeah.
but for the most part, like part of the research I was doing was to learn the indigenous cultures. So, and the story took place of about an 18-year-old Eskimo.
Wow.
Well, I happened to run into one of those kids who was suicidal.
Wow.
And his story's crazy too. He's still close friends with me. I still keep in touch with the guy.
Good for you.
And we cruised for like a week or two together. And I learned so much. You know what? I forgot what it was like to be 18.
Yeah.
And you get to
you're
see
40.
an 18. Oh yeah, I was pushing 40 at this time. And you see these little things that I don't do anymore, what I did when I was 18.
Yeah.
You know, like he would just be like kind of laying there and he'd just start singing the songs in his dialect and in the language and stuff. And I just thought that was so neat as
Like
an 18-year-old.
cheerful innocence.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Cheerful innocence. You know, we get jaded or whatever as we grow older or whatever is stripped from
Whistling
us.
while you work. And stuff.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so I did have interaction. Like he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
He taught me so much. Like I remember taking him to, we were on the Kenai Peninsula. I took him to Pizza Hut and we ordered a pizza and he was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "It's a mushroom." He's like, "Oh, what's this?" "Oh, it's a green pepper." He's like, "Wow." He'd never seen those. He's American. You know, like that happens in like Africa and Asia, you know, like, but still they probably see things. So it was just an eye-opening experience. And then I have so many stories about him and like buying him shoes. You know, he never had a brand new pair of shoes. And
Where's his family? Were they around?
north, like Prudhoe Bay,
He was on his
Alaska.
own at 18.
Oh, very young age. He was on that's a cool story. You should have him on your podcast. Let's
go.
Where he had to literally survive when his uncle and dad, they were out on a camping trip. Grandfather died by the ice broke and they took him away and he was 12 years old and he had to navigate his grandmother and him back to their village. Like,
oh my God.
And then what went through with that. And then he tried to save his 2-year-old niece from drowning and the water kills people. Alaska's death around every corner, if you don't know that.
Yeah.
But his story and then what he had to go through and then he psychologically was hurt. And so they sent him off to these boys' schools like in Fairbanks and different places. And he never had a real good mentor in his life.
And he stumbles upon you in the wilderness.
Oh, bro, we still keep in touch today.
That's cool, man.
Keep in touch.
We'll have to have him on. What a story.
Oh, he's amazing. Now he's a firefighter up in Alaska. That's
amazing.
It's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Sort of.
I don't know how we got there.
You're just telling us the journey, the impact, the things are important. I mean, you went from hanging out with like Matt Damon to now you're in the wilderness. Like really sounds to me like you're figuring out the purpose to life.
Amen.
So start with, so that led you to your wife, really.
Yeah.
Start there, man. Cause it was fun to know the backstory with Operation Underground Railroad.
Yeah, we're building
Your
there.
wife's support and was pivotal for you. And I'd love for you to unpack that. Like, tell us about her and where you are with her.
Where do I start? I wouldn't be who I am and would not even come close to the success, not only personally, but for the organization without her.
Yeah.
Insane.
Wow.
It's beyond what I even would have dreamed to pray for.
Yeah.
You know, and I said that when we met and I was praying for different things back then.
Yeah.
You know, and she surpassed all those prayers and ideas and thoughts that I had. And now it's even more insane. Like I don't like the word cheerleader because she's definitely not a cheerleader. She is a, passionate inspirer and enthusiast.
She's your champion.
Yeah. Oh, she's better than me at making me great.
I would say this: if you're married and you come home and you're in a career that's flourishing, you have a bit of fame, you're hanging around some of the most successful people on planet Earth, literally celebrities at the A-list level, and you come home and say, "Hey, honey, I think I'm going to drop my entire career, our whole way of being, everything we know, all the security, and I think I'm going to go pursue this endeavor of saving children." Like, just knowing that we're connecting to that dot, a little foreshadowing here, but like, how many women out there, look in your own life, if you close your eyes and you imagine your wife right now, or your husband for that matter, it doesn't matter, or your significant other, it's irrelevant, but how many people out there could say that their spouse, the person they love, would be all in on such a bizarre concept? Like, honestly, like, think about that. Like, hold on, you're doing what?
The sacrifice.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that without a team member that it gives you the courage to like really say yes to your gut and your instincts.
Oh, she has never said no. When I was like, you know what? There's this thing.
It's rare.
Coming up. I just don't know. She's like, of course you should. You need to be there. The result if you don't go is that kids remain in suffering and in trafficking situations.
So you obviously got exposed to Operation Underground Railroad. I mean, Tim Bauer, we've talked about him. I've talked to him earlier. He's like a hero of mine. Love this guy. I'm so excited to be near like a piece of his world. Nate's
you
awesome.
met him? him?
I know.
Man.
I got to hug him.
There's a movie right now coming out.
Yeah, there's
very soon.
Jim Caviezel's playing him. Mel Gibson is producing it, correct?
Mel is he did an edit.
Okay, I thought I heard. Regardless, this story about Tim Ballard's life is going to be coming out live. So very cool.
Well, that's a great segue. So how did I learn about O.U.R? Was Jim Caviezel was a really close friend of mine. I worked closely with him for a decade.
Real quick, for people that don't know O.U.R, give us the 10-second mission of O.U.R, just in case there's someone doesn't know.
Yeah, so Operation Underground Railroad exists to rescue children from modern day slavery with a focus on sex trafficking.
Sex trafficking. Got it.
But, we also will rescue women, men, children.
Yeah.
When we go after children, we're not going to leave an adult
100%
behind.
It's been tortured for years, most likely.
Yeah.
They worked their way into adulthood by being slaves.
Yeah.
And Jim played a role in you going there?
Well, yeah. So Jim plays Tim Ballard in this movie, The Sound of Freedom, was coming out this summer. And he was like, Nate, you got to come down here to Columbia. We're filming this movie about this real life superhero, Tim Ballard. And he was sending me videos. And I was like, this can't be real.
Yeah. Did you think you were going to go work for them?
No, well, I considered it, but there was Zika viruses going on. I was trying to have kids. We were no way, we're not going. I'm not doing that.
Country,
Right? But he had asked me to come down.
There's an opportunity for your business to do something. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that was actually the turning point because that was the first job I said no to.
Wow.
That was the first job. I got married. I just got married in May, and Jim was like in June saying, hey, come with me. And then
I'm good.
We got pregnant in September.
Yeah.
It was resorted priorities right there.
Yeah, right. And it was literally the first time I said no in my life to a career opportunity.
Yeah.
Which I thought I was saying no to something, but in the end, it comes back to me as a huge yes. So my wife, we started watching this stuff and we're like, man, this guy's amazing.
Tim Ballard.
Tim.
Research.
My wife, I'm not really on social media, but she started following O.U.R and Tim, and she would keep me updated. Like, it's insane.
It's a man on a mission.
Oh, buddy.
Undeniable.
Beyond.
You don't know Tim Ballard. Please know him.
It's insanity, man. It's insanity.
Doing God's work.
So, anyways, just small circles, whatever. We get introduced. I was the face of a company with a couple million followers, and they invited me down to do
no big deal.
Tim and so I met Tim and I met the people, and it was the people there. The mission is undeniable, right? Rescuing kids from sex trafficking.
Yep.
I mean,
sounds cliche almost, but people don't get it.
Well, we'll get into it. But when I went down there and I met the people, I had this weird feeling that was holding me there. It was like really a real magnetic feeling. I started telling my wife about it when she's like, how'd it go? And
this ain't work. This is.
And she's
different.
like, "Wait, we're not moving to Salt Lake, man. Like, there's no way. We got our dream.
We're good.
He's here in beautiful North Iowa.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's that first instinct. Come on, we're good.
So we ended up the company I was working for, we're actually doing a huge sponsorship and thing going on right now as we speak. Cool. But they had the CEO out from Operation Underground Railroad, and he came out, and we were just ended up talking in the parking lot. We might have went to a gun range or something like that. We used to shoot some guns. So
you're in now with the guy.
So we were just standing in the parking lot, and for some reason, like, hey, you want to come do some contract work for O.U.R? And I was like, no, I'm good, man. I'm living the dream right now. I'm home.
Yeah.
I'm done traveling.
Got family.
Oh yeah, buddy. No, I'm good. And then, all right, it's good seeing you. And we turn and separate ways, and I'm almost to my car, and he's almost to his. And
oh man,
I didn't even decide this. It just happened. It was this I turned around and threw up words. Like, wow. What's a real job look like?
Yeah.
I was like, what did I just say?
It's that one sentence, sentence that connected this whole story to why we're here.
What's a real job look like? Oh man.
What's a real job look like?
And then I thought, man, my wife's going to kill me if he really comes back with something. And he's like, let's go to lunch on Monday. And we did. And he dropped this proposal on me. And
how magnetic is he at lunch? His energy's different.
Well, Tim Ballard's energy is out of this world.
It's different. It's divine.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Big time. But so my wife asks me what's going on. I kind of give it to her, and I'm thinking for sure she's out on this one because we have this ideal situation. And the first words out of her mouth is no brainer.
Wow, dude.
No brainer.
No brainer.
No brainer. Going to work for O.U.R.
And so were you hoping that she would give you that burst of confidence to go pursue this kind of vague, scary thing?
No, because there was so much unknown about O.U.R. to me, and I was
still a myth.
I was loving what I was doing, man.
Travel and all
everything.
But were you sort of hoping that she would put up? We're good. Let them.
I thought that was going to be her answer.
Yeah, let them do that.
I don't. Yeah, I know where you're going with this one. I just.
That's not what she said, though.
It's not what she said.
No.
She's like,
Yeah.
This is what you're supposed to do.
How many times do people resist or ignore that like inner divine nudge you had walking back to that car?
It's the difference
life
maker.
often comes down to just a moment and trusting and inspiration.
One moment
comes from something beyond you.
One
That's
moment.
the feeling I get in your stories. Like
100%.
And of course, talking to you before the whole Operation Underground Railroad, you could just feel there's God's hand in it. There's a presence to it far beyond any individual.
Yes.
It's clear.
That's why exploiting this part of the story is so important. Like we're chewing it up right now for a reason, because how many people in their lives have these pivotal moments and they take the easy path, the one that's comfortable, the one, you know what I mean? They take the more common path. Like very few people actually dig deep in those moments. And those are the moments that change the outcome of your life. They change your deathbed. We've talked a lot about that whole notion of this whole man on a mission. We want to get to our deathbed in a certain type of way. We all want it, but that means you can't keep passing these Nate Lewis moments up.
Well, you know, what's interesting about what you're saying too, is that in the moment you think it's going to be what it is. And then down the road, it's totally you look back and go, it's
holy shit. Yeah.
It's completely
you don't know till you jump.
How was that for you then? Like,
I thought, I'm going to go do something that's noble. I'm going to help rescue kids, blah, blah. Yeah. And then to see the impact, I feel like sometimes I've been saved and rescued in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, man, when you get to go see.
That's what I'm looking for. Me, I want that.
Yeah. I've had insane experiences in my life and met the most incredible humans. I've never, ever seen a relationship when you see a child unite with the rescuer, and that relationship is unlike any other relationship in the world. There's no relationship, no mother, child, sibling, friend, groomsman. I don't care what relationship you can think of. When you look at the rescuer and the rescuee in that relationship that they have now and that bond forever, you're like a prayer that was answered or whatever. It's beyond that even. It's beyond.
I'm getting chills as I like think about that feeling. You're right. There's nothing like it in the world. Someone that's been in it, the most innocent thing on planet Earth, that's being tortured by hell, by the devil, and you are its savior. Like you're not looking at yourself as a savior. You're just You're just doing the thing, like doing the type of work.
You're on your
at the
mission.
end of the day, like how does she look at you or he look at you?
Yeah, dude.
Like I mean, wow, that's profound.
Well, it's hard to explain it.
Wild.
You have to experience it.
Yeah. This is a good moment to challenge people. Like as we go along on this journey with you, like just take these key moments to pause for a minute, like think about like just that baby, that child, that innocent soul. And you just did some noble act that like saved it from like hell, like ripping apart its little soul, whatever's left there to save. Like you found a way in. Like there's not a lot of people that are doing anything worthwhile with their time. They're bitching a lot. They're complaining a lot. They're mad at the TV, but they're not doing anything in their local economy, in their own community, in their own neighborhoods. They're just kind of complaining a lot. So here's a great example of someone at the highest level that is going in and like maybe like doing one of the most probably profound things on planet Earth, because there's nothing more precious than innocence. And if you don't have innocence, you don't have freedom.
We were talking about that earlier, like this show, Man on a Mission. Like you're not a woman, you're not a man if you're not protecting innocence.
100%.
Like that gospel.
It's part of the human condition.
Exactly.
You got to protect innocence. You ever looked in the eyes of just an animal even? I mean, innocence is it's everywhere. Mother Nature is innocence. There's power, there's strength, but like you look into the soul of like an animal. I should tell you a mushroom story some other time, but it's funny.
Give us the conclusion.
You look into the eyes of innocence on mushrooms, like in an experience situation. Like I don't know how to describe it. It was one of the most profound moments of my life where I felt like I was understanding innocence at a level that I could never comprehend. And it was inadvertent. I was young and dumb and stupid and in college, but it was one of these profound, odd moments in my life. But I remember having a connection with innocence that I think probably changed the direction of my life forever. I remember thinking after that was done that my life will never be the same. And it just really gave me meaning at a young age from a bizarre experience, but it all had to do with innocence. And this just happened to be through the eyes of a little chihuahua. I'm relating it to anything innocent. It was this kindred spirit and soul that it must be protected. It's so precious. It's, you know what I mean?
That's
hard to describe.
That tees up a profound question for Nate, because I had a mentor, a psychiatrist. He once said, look, because obviously a psychiatrist works with everybody in the pits of everything. And he was like, if you can relocate and retain innocence, you can get you through anything. And there was, in our earlier conversations with Nate, I remember some stories you talked about where, if you could just unpack that for the listeners, one of your stories about like, you were so moved by the innocence and the joy in these kids who've been through hell. Oh, yeah. That was like, that it really hit me. Like, could you unpack that a bit for people to get the frame of that? Yeah.
That was the light switch moment for me. Like, I'm never going back.
So you had a light switch moment. Okay, here we go.
I'm never going back.
Got it.
This is what I do the rest of my life.
So you're exploring,
I'm now on a mission.
The mission starts.
I thought I was on a mission. Like, hey, I took the job for this reason.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Noble, very noble.
Through it. 6 months later, dropped in. Here we go.
God, this amps me up.
I have
I'm so juiced by this because, like, wow, what a life. Like, this is what you should pursue in life, is real significance.
Yeah.
Bro, I think last time we were talking, you asked me, what gets you up in the morning and lights you? And this is where I go. Damn. And we were in, we got some intel like 4 or 5 days before. We were planning on doing like a 3-week trip in Northern Africa. Yeah. And
you're in Africa.
Unfortunately, we're getting some pictures and some updates of some kids and the siblings who had been decapitated. I don't know how rated can I get here?
You just tell the story.
No. You got to do it.
All right.
You have to. You have to tell the story.
Well, this is just truth. I'm just going to share some truths here. And so it's kind of messed up, you know, when you see it on a phone and this and that. It's not real, but it's messed up. And then
it's tragic.
We head over. We're in a northern part of Africa, and we're working with survivors. We're going in and reuniting. That was my first moment to see this rescuer and the rescuee relationship happen. Like, this is my first moment with that, and just profound things that took place. That was the, like, hey, every tragedy is tomorrow's testimony. Remember that? Yeah. I was telling you about that. That happened, and all these things were occurring. And then we go, and Jessica Mass, who's one of the most amazing women in our organization, in the world. She's our chief aftercare
Shout out to Jessica.
Officer. Yeah, dude. If you ever have you want to have a powerful 3-day conversation. Cool. Wow.
We're going to find her.
Anyway, so she's like preparing me, right? She knows. Hey, we're going to go to this this place on Sunday. You know, these children have survived sacrifice, witch doctors and stuff like that.
Did that even hit you when you hear that? Because, okay, they're sacrificed. Like, is this real? Like, what? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, the normal people in America, they probably can't comprehend like some statement like, okay, we're going to there's child sacrifice going on here. Like, what? Like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. You have to back up. Like, how do you digest that not knowing what you're about to walk into?
Well, you don't. It's a thought.
You don't.
It's words. It's just words at that point.
Abstract,
and you're like, oh, okay, that's
Jesus. Wow. Pray the Lord.
Oh man. So going in there, I'd already experienced, you know, like, dang man, there's some tough stuff going on here, right? And I look at her as we're about to go in, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, it's a home of kids who've been mutilated and chopped up, and it's a bad deal, right? Like, I'm picturing in my mind what I'm walking into. And we walk in, and almost instantaneous. I mean, you got to remember, it's not America. This is third world, so it's not to what we're used to. Yeah. You know, and this little girl, Della is her name, and she just lights up. Like, she just lights up. And
how old
we don't
was she?
speak. Oh man, she must have been like 3 or 4.
We got to set the scene here. We got a 3-year-old little girl.
Yeah, beautiful.
You come in, and there she is.
Yeah, there's like 15 kids there, but she's the one that
spoke to your soul.
Boom, smile, light up, which was a shock to me. I was like, wait, what? I thought I was coming into this
child sacrifice.
Yeah, which I was, but it's a child.
And she's smiling.
Her eyes are wonder, bro.
Yeah.
And she starts doing certain things. I'm recording us like with my phone, and she's doing some of the same things that my kid was doing at the same time. But by the way, at this time I had a 1-month-old. Talk about my wife being a hero. Wow. Leave for 3 weeks after,
profound,
you know. And profound. So I'm attaching all these things to it back home, and then these other boys, and we're playing games and jumping around. And I the only way I can even explain this is the laughter echoed off the walls. They were just laughing like kids laugh, you know, and it made me think about, like, man, even the situation that they're in, like, you're still a child, and the child's world is so different than us. We can't go back and look through the eyes of the Chihuahua. It's hard for us to go back and look through the eyes of a child, but imagine the world that existed where it was built for children. And we could see the world like children do. So it'd be amazing, I think.
Have these children already been in a safe place when you get there, or are you going?
Yeah, they're in a safe place.
So the bust has already happened.
These are recovering
kids. It's both, but this experience was they're already been rescued.
So in this particular moment, like these kids finally are in a safe place with people that care about them.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yeah. Well, and the boy that we were going there initially to have like a medical exam because they cut off his genitals, they'd cut off his hand, and they'd split his neck open and left him for dead. And some kids found him
bleeding
in a
out.
Plastic bin. Yeah.
Oh my God.
A water trough. Anyways, he was just this.
He survived.
Soul. He survived. Yeah. Oh, here's a cool part of this story too. Like, well, this part isn't that cool, but we were all like picking up these leaves and tearing holes and wearing them as masks. How simple is that? And he only has one hand and he can't tear a hole. And I just was like, man, you just took something from that kid. Whoever did this took something. It's so simple. Away
how did your rage?
That's what it started. I'm getting to the light switch moment. That's where it started, right? But he also had severe, not really brain damage, but trauma, dude. So he's not talking at this point.
Oxygen wasn't getting to his brain as he's bleeding out, left for dead in the middle of the jungle.
Just a massive trauma.
Somehow he's saved by God's grace. He's still around. Like, I don't know what.
How does a 3-year-old or 2-year-old comprehend that? And the dad had guilt because he sent his 2 boys to go grab some like supplies at like a mini mart type of deal.
And they got stolen.
Yeah, it got taken.
Fuck.
And then.
Unbelievable.
So then we're there and we're telling them like, hey, we're going to get you a prosthetic hand, get you prosthetic implants, and we're going to be along the way. So as you grow out of them, we're going to help you. And the dad, at that moment, I felt like he was rescued because he can't do that for his child. And as a parent, you want everything for your child. And for us to come in and provide that for his child, I never realized the effect you have on that parent. If you ever reunite a child with a parent, the parent's dream comes true as well as the child. So there's so much to really talk about. But so all these moments are happening. There's this girl, Hope. She actually had her blood drained for about 2 years, and the lack of oxygen to her brain did make her brain damaged. And she's physically damaged and pretty much paralyzed, but she smiles all the time. She's laying on the floor. And so my heart now continues to crumble and break throughout the day, but I'm still like getting overjoyed with their childlike. Just they're still children, right? Their spirit is alive.
Kindred spirits.
And then I knew that we were hunting a witch doctor that was doing this stuff, right? I knew that's why we were there. And I go back to my hotel room, and I'll never forget this moment because I had 30 different emotions happening simultaneously that didn't make sense to be happening simultaneously. Like complete inspiration from these young kids and drive, sadness, and the most evil anger I've ever experienced in my life.
No doubt.
Like, I mean, I was, and I shared this with you guys before, but I was taken to gunpoint and held hostage overnight. I never wanted to kill those guys. Still to this day.
Yeah.
I went to a point, and I'm not saying that I ever would, but man, I was borderlining the thought and the feeling and putting into action. Like, let's go.
Killing.
Like, let's go. This is not right. Like, why are you hurting humans? Even more, why are you doing it to children? I mean, I hate bullies, man. That's part of why I think I love what I do now is we get to be a part of this. Is like, man, I've always been a bully killer. I've gotten into bad situations because of sticking up for the innocent in bars and whatever, like really stupid stuff. But this was like the most horrific form of bullying that I'd ever experienced or seen in my life. And I was concerned, and I had to call my wife like, uh-oh. I might have went overboard here because now I'm in a different place. We ended up.
Yeah, the savage is coming out.
Oh, man.
It's just, what do you expect?
How do you hold that back?
You care so much.
I couldn't understand what was going on in my body internally.
You can't afford to let this happen to anyone else, and you're willing to risk everything to make sure that person doesn't touch another child ever again. That instinct to want to like literally silence that person forever and kill evil in real time.
Well, and it became my reality was my buddies, like these SEAL guys. I'm like, how do you kick down doors and shoot these guys? And he's like, I was born to fight evil. And I was like, dude, that's awesome.
Real
you're
life
so brave,
superheroes.
you know?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden when that happened, I was like, this must be what they feel.
Fuck it, yeah.
Oh, they want to go ruin evil, right, on the planet. And so that was the light switch moment for me at that point. You know, it put me into therapy, which was awesome though, because now I have the tools and I'm equipped to go into situations that.
Because you can't let it destroy you and your family.
Yeah, when it was starting.
You got to find a way to turn this into productive energy that can go serve more people. Like if it destroys you in the process, what's the point? I mean, there's so many lessons and stories in Nate's experience. But I'll tell you, like at the end of it, if you're out there listening and you've been bitching about some little weird thing, and you have any reason to complain, you should just silence that voice. Like make a declaration today to silence your complaining, your bitching, and you need to reshift your attitude, because there's so many people out there that are suffering, like really suffering. And you could connect it to anything that helps you get through. But this story is just littered with lessons.
Oh, so many. Doesn't stop, man.
Yeah, it's hard.
It just doesn't stop.
Well, did you get the bad guy?
Well, we got the witch doctor. We didn't get the guy. The guy went into hiding up in the mountains that paid
The guy
him.
who funded it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is, yeah. So I mean, talk about the.
But we're getting a lot of them now.
The business
we got
of
a full-time
sex trafficking,
guys there.
really.
We got a full team in that country. We actually bought another NGO, basically acquired him to have a
NGO.
full-time non-government organization.
Okay.
Right? So nonprofit. So we can operate there 24/7. And now we're in 6 regions of the world. We always say the sun never sets on O.U.R. because literally we're in almost every time zone of the
I know you probably don't know how many lives you've truly touched, but you have an idea of the impact that O.U.R. has had on this industry of sex trafficking?
It's an impossible number, but I can tell you the ones that we've single-handedly had our hands on, we've rescued over 7,500.
It's incredible.
We've arrested nearly 6,000. And the interesting thing about that number is 6,000. The average predator will abuse 117 children.
Yeah, it's huge.
Times it by 117 or wherever they're at in their journey. Yeah. But I think the profound number that we don't talk about that needs to be understood, because people are like, well, are you really making an impact? The difference of what we do is that we provide local law enforcement and government agencies resources, training, certain things that they need to be able to be impactful. Yeah. All 50 states, but outside the country, we'll bring all these countries together. We'll do these trainings, because you got to build these. Everything's online now. We can talk about all the details, but you're building a case online. So everything's digital. Only about 2% of the cases physical in most parts, where they're actually opening the door and then getting arrested to come do what they committed and already agreed to. Right. Wow. So there's so much that's happening. So we've trained all these, we have 9 countries come to one location. We do all this training, then we provide them their equipment, like the hardware, the software, the tools to unlock phones, to have all the leads and all that. So we taught them to fish, and then they go back, spiderweb out, and now they're fishing. And we've been doing that for 10 years. It's our 10-year anniversary right now.
Amazing.
And so how many countries, how many departments that we've worked with all over the world, we have
huge
no
impact.
idea.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
Because you planted a seed and that plant just kept growing.
Yeah, and I don't know what the number is. If we wouldn't have assisted with them at some point,
bottom line is
what they would have done.
You've touched that, for a fact, just through your own metrics, that over 7,000 babies. Can you imagine? I mean, those. First of all, I'm honored to be sitting next to someone like you. How incredible! Wrap your mind around impact. We keep talking about hey, okay, what are you going to do before you're dead that is going to leave a mark on the world worthwhile? These are high bars, you guys, but these are the things that really matter, right? Am I wrong here? Or
it reminds me of something you said when we talked earlier, which was kind of the piece that it's hard for you to describe, knowing you're contributing, like something. One of the last conversations we had, you talked about how at peace you are, knowing you know what your mission is, or I can't remember exactly how you framed that, but like you're actually contributing, something. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, there's really no way to know the true impact. You guys won't know the impact of this podcast, really, on someone. It could be one person's life. It could be 1,000 people's lives. Yeah. But I have seen firsthand the impact that I have witnessed, on a human life. I've seen it. And so just knowing
it's you're in individual moments. Yeah. You're in the way their eyes twitch and look at you as you become the hand that really saves them. Oh, man. It's in those moments. It's not numbers. It's not how big or how small. You can connect right into that hug.
It's a human.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a story. It's not words in a book.
Yeah. This should inspire people to get involved, to start looking around and say, okay, part of my business plan is I'm going to climb the ladder of success and I'm going to like rip towards my dreams. Like part of it is you're going to have to, on my game board of life, I have a game board of life. I teach my clients this. I have a whole thing about impact and philanthropy, community. Like there's a box for this. It's part of my plan on how I'm going to attack life. This should definitely inspire you to look around and say, okay, if you haven't been doing anything, now's the time. Like this is crucial. I think this is crucial towards getting to the end in a way that's graceful and that's going to like leave you with less regret and less doubt. Like go contribute to Innocence and help it. Because in my mind, bro, here's what I struggle with. How is this subject matter not firing up every single good-hearted human in this country, where it's so loud, the noise is so profound, and there's so much energy built around it that these motherfuckers are hiding in every single place in the country. They're afraid to step out because the overwhelming presence. And like, I'll be honest, as I talk about this subject matter more and more, as I've learned more and more about it, so many people have this vague understanding of what sex trafficking is. They don't realize like how it touches everyone's life. It could actually happen to your own daughter who's 16, who goes to school in a small town in Coeur d'Alene. And it literally creeps in through the internet. It literally blackmails your daughter. It gets her down a dark, ugly path. I mean, there's so many different ways to be trafficked around, but most people think it's like big storage containers full of, you know, people like that maybe get bust across the border. You know what I mean? They don't realize how slippery of a slope this is. It's like a snake. It weeds through your neighborhood. But the fact that this is not such an overwhelming topic in the media, like it's like a profoundly overwhelming topic. When they debate for the presidential race, like, why are we talking about this shit? Why are we not hammering this? Where are all the good people that are saying nothing? Like, I just don't feel the overwhelming presence of the fight to go capture the demon and kill it, rip its head off. Like, it's got to be part of the mission, man.
Got it.
That gives me a question for you, because like, how has this impacted in the more humble, ordinary day-to-day of your personal life as a father? Like when you getting involved with O.U.R. and having children. Like how has that impacted your fatherhood and being because I'm just thinking of listeners like, oh, I can contribute money. And you've mentioned before, Nate, that, you know, elderly people, World War II vets are like, dude, I can't get in the plane and go get the bad guy, but I love knowing I can support your
What can I
efforts.
do? Yeah.
Yeah, what can I do?
That
like
should be the question.
If I'm an ordinary husband, dad, I want to hear when you take off your superhero cape. Erik loves to evoke that analogy, like, and go home to your kids. How has this work come into your household? Can you speak to that?
Well, look, I was blessed with 2 boys, but I guess I need to speak to probably men who might have daughters. And I think that what we see is men need to be men, and they need to, and I'm not talking about if you're divorced and separated, doesn't matter. You need to be a man, and you need to be present in your daughter's life. Yeah. And I'm telling you right now, if you're not, they will seek that. And I'm hoping,
that's a good point.
And you're praying that they're seeking the best male figure for their life.
I have 3 nieces.
You're not.
Like, this shifts how I think about my nieces.
This is powerful, man. It answers the question you were evoking, Erik. Like, what can a man do? So say more. You're saying there's a vulnerability there. If a man's not involved, he's basically exposing his daughter to.
Yeah. These little girls need something.
Protecting his daughter.
They're going to search for a male figure in their life. They need that. Yeah. And if they don't have that there for them, they will find it.
They're more vulnerable.
They're going to be vulnerable. Man. And those sickos out there
take advantage.
See it, know it, take advantage of it, and they own them in a sense.
Yeah. And they're so good at it. They're so manipulating. And that's how it slips into good families. Because most people think, oh, my daughters are good. They were raised in a good home. We're not in the slums. You know, we didn't come from Africa. Well, hold on here. Like, I think there may be a bigger problem with the internet. Like, it's actually probably a bigger impact on young children's lives just through the nature of the internet now than it is in the traditional way that most people see sex trafficking. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. It reminds me of a psychiatrist. He framed for me once, like, a kid, if they're around like a noble, loving parent, when they're around the opposite, they don't have an abstract concept about that. They have an aversion.
Yeah.
They don't know why. They can't explain it to you conceptually, but if you're around a man, I love this, Nate, like if you're around a father who's there for you, it's got dignity and love. If you are ever exposed to the opposite, they have a natural aversion to it. They just, whereas a kid who's not around that loving, dignified container, they don't have that discernment mechanism is impaired with them, within them.
This may be the biggest point. Fathers in America are probably more important than anything else as it pertains to children in this country. The role the male figure plays, like we'll just call it the testosterone. The role that testosterone plays in a young child's life is crucial. It's an element that is how this whole thing works. And it is so profound and it's so important. And I think as we've demasculized, I don't know if that's a word, but as we've really pulled like away in society, masculinity is almost like it's a bad thing. It's an evil. It's, being strong. Like I've always thought, well, I love this Ronald Reagan quote, peace through strength. Like if you can provide that in your household, safety, like rigidity, like, courage, strength, fortitude, like grit, willpower, discipline, like these are traits of masculinity. And this is how a warrior goes into battle. You know what I mean? And it goes out into battle to protect innocence at its core, protect freedom. And innocence and freedom are basically the same thing. They're tied together. The freedom of a child is its innocence. Yeah. So, but if men's are not showing up, again, like it's another part of our mission is to really like promote these things that are very important and that mainstream seems to be ripping away from.
Well said.
I want to touch on something that you talked about as a parent and personal life and being a dad. And I think that, the whole timing of this is, for me, if this would have happened 10 years ago, it would have been different for me. And, Tim has said this many times, but I've experienced this. And when you see kids as a parent and you relate it to your kids, and I do this all the time and I try not to, these are the tools that I need is to stop doing this to myself. Yeah. But, I look at my kids sometimes and I see them doing their things just almost every day. And I think, man, it sucks that there's kids out there that don't have this. And doesn't every child deserve that? Yeah. And then you ask, what can people do? And I think I would ask the question to you, whoever's listening, this question. And I would say, if you're a parent and your child was taken, and you walked by that room every night and you saw an empty bed, what wouldn't you do?
Jeez.
It's profound.
So do it.
Yeah.
Whatever you got to do. And some people can't go on these missions, but I'm telling you right now, we're a conduit for you to do it. So we are not funded by the government, not funded federally, state. It's individuals, it's light, it's army, it's human, it's soldiers, S-O-U-L, soldiers. Like we are an army of men, women, warriors. And just talk about it, get loud, share the stories you see on social media, whatever it is, do podcasts, use your platform.
Put attention on this issue.
Let's do it.
Don't be quiet about it. We got to make noise. We got to bring attention to the things that are like literally ripping this world apart.
Yeah, what wouldn't you do?
Yeah, start a podcast.
If it was your child,
as you're
make it a
that
scene.
Picture as like, I'll die now, I'll die over it.
However you get the word out.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And you have to have that mentality. And that's why Tim's such a fierce leader, because we were in crazy situations. Our teams are all the time. And there was a point where it got turned sideways with the cartels and everybody's telling him, don't go there. Don't do this. We can't do this. No, let's pull out and blah, blah. And he's like, dude, if this was your kid, what would you do?
Dude, like go.
Oh, yeah, you're going,
I can't wait for this film, man, to get the essence of that kind of thing.
In this film, just real quick, there was a story Tim told me about 300 children in like a hotel. I know you can't talk forever on this, but this reality of how easy it is with the internet, like how it, because in my mind, I'm like, hold on, there's a hotel in some country. I forgot what it was. Uganda? No. In South America.
Yeah.
How is that possible that 300 children can be in one place and they're all getting raped in real time by foreigners that are traveling into town? They fly in, they get a cat taxi, they go to this hotel and they have their way with children.
I'll do it real brief. First of all, there's a 4-part miniseries coming out later this year called The Hidden War. I wanted to promote that.
That's
where this all started. It was in the Ukraine, and then we got intel.
The Hidden War.
The Hidden War.
Okay.
And this is why Tim left the government, because you would never be able to do this in the government. So we got intel from some Dutch police. There was a guy who they were trying to legalize sex with minors. And there was this huge thing. You'll see all about it when you see this, the hidden war. So it was that group. They fled, and one of them was hiding out in Mexico City. Most of this is already out there for you to see on the internet. And Tim instantly infiltrated this guy and set up a meeting. And within 6 days, and this is all recorded, we watched this go down, like it's all out there now. And you'll see some of this. Within 6 days, he's arrested in Mexico City. There's no way you could go. And then that led us to South America. This is the Airbnb. It was a homosexual couple that had a sex hotel for people to come and have sex with boys only under the age of 10, and they were paying locals.
Under the age of 10?
10 or younger. They were paying locals like $100 to recruit them. And then they were enticing these kids because they had video games and candy and all this stuff and blah, blah, and they were feeding them.
Yeah, they groom them. They groom them.
Yeah, and it was probably like their only real meal a day, right? Anyways, we found out, we got some intel, we put surveillance on them, identified them, worked with the local law enforcement.
How many children were in this?
Well, the night that it went down, fortunately, there wasn't a whole lot, but the whole community had been tampered by it. I mean, there was kids afterwards crying, and Dad's like, what? And he's like, well, I always took a bath with my clothes on.
Oh, man.
And that's like where it would start, but this whole community has been devastated. And then parents started to uproar at us because that's where they thought their kids were just going there to get fed because they were feeding these kids.
Oh, yeah, that's how they manipulate.
Well, now, so what do we do? Now we've been providing since last summer a hot meal every single day. We continue to. The education department donated a building to us. We're going to turn that into a kitchen. We're going to continue to feed this. Yeah. Not only that, but what it does for that village.
The devil preys on poverty.
And I'm telling you what a cool way to end this is in 2 weeks. We're flying out 10 doctors. One is a specialist out of Miami who deals with identifying adolescent trauma down to 18 months. And we're going to not only work with the kids and identify and do physicals, but work with the parents to help them understand what's next. Next. And some dentists and stuff. So we're finding out some free care. And there's about 350 kids that were affected by it in that village. Yeah.
Well, you're amazing, man. I just got to say thank you first and foremost for doing this. I want to just give people an outlet. Is there some place we can send anyone that might be out there that wants to contribute in any capacity? Just a first punch. Yeah.
Operation Underground Railroad is the name of the organization. So O.U.R rescue.org.
O.U.R rescue.org.
And social media is Our Rescue. So you can.
Our Rescue.
It's pretty. If you could just share some of the content, because people
share the message, please. Share the message.
People don't know what's going on. Check out our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I think, eventually it'll be even more than what it is. But man, our YouTube channel is like the old days, like the cops show what you can do when they come for you. This is like legit.
Yeah, this is in reality too.
And if people don't contribute funds, it's very hard for these guys to do what they do. So if you have any spare money, it's
share
crucial.
The content,
I'm definitely going to be contributing. I challenge you to do the exact same thing. 100%.
Become an abolitionist, man. Modern day abolitionist.
Yeah.
Nate, thank you so much for joining.
I feel like this was such a blessing, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, more to come. Anytime. I'm around. I live here. I'm local.
Chapter 1.
He gets the Coeur d'Alene beauty piece. So
yes. Number 1, man.
Hey, good luck to you guys and all this and this.
Yeah.
Excited to see this journey.
We love, I just want to say, like, it's so awesome to wrap the show or we'll wrap this show, but to have on our first show, the show is called Man on a Mission.
Something so profound.
And as much as what you're saying, even what you're not saying, it's really clear you have an amazing heart, and you're a man. I mean, and for the things we didn't cover, it was cool to hear some of your stories. A lot of these A-list actors, in Nate's backstory is they just trust his integrity, his down to earth, humble way of being. Yeah. And he's so humble about that kind of aspect. And so Erik and I were just like, God, we got like a legitimate man on our first show.
Yeah, it worked out.
Thank you for being here. And, you inspire us, and we appreciate everything you said. Yeah. So
thank you, brother.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, I just want to say, first of all, like, not only thank you to everyone that put this together here from the bottom of our hearts, but thank you for watching. Please share this. It's important to try to get some momentum here. We want to drive these stories to inspire change in your life, to do something worthwhile, something noble, so that when you get towards the end of your life, you look back and you have no regrets. But it starts today. You got to make hard decisions. It starts right now. Thank you for listening.